Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello, and thanks for stopping by the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today, I want to talk to you about the Leader's Challenge in the 21st Century. So I want to open this with a quote from Andy Stanley. Andy has this to say. He says, "Change is always preceded by challenge. Where there is no challenge, there is no change. It is the job of the leader to challenge the process. Challenging the status quo is where leadership begins." And again, those were the words of Andy Stanley. So I want to talk to you about creating a character-based culture, because that's what you're going to need to succeed, whether you're the CEO, the business owner, the top leader, or you're just leading a small team within an organization. If you want to have a high-performance team, then you want to create a character-based culture within your team. So in a world that's focused on how to appear to be instead of how to actually be, the challenge of 21st century leaders is to create an organizational culture based on well-developed character. A high-impact 21st century leader knows exactly where to start. Y'all hear me talk about it all the time. In the mirror. They understand that if the organization is not where it should be, there's only one person to blame: themselves. Therefore, high-impact leaders first focus on growing themselves. So that's a common theme on my podcast. You hear me talking about that all the time. So if they're going to retain their top talent, they must develop their own character. These leaders have to model what they expect to see in others. If they want their team to grow and develop, they must grow and develop. They must realize with complete humility that just because they are positional leaders, they have not arrived, nor will they ever arrive. For a high-impact 21st century leader, the goal is not to simply obtain a leadership position. Their goal is continuous, effective growth, with a majority of their time, energy, and resources being spent on personal and team-based character development. That's what's going to separate a high-impact 21st century leader from the pack. They're intentionally focused on character development. So those that succeed in the 21st century will be those that value people and those that choose to intentionally grow and develop them. So the challenge is not only creating a growth and development environment, but also to ensure that you retain your leaders. So you do have to create a growth and development environment. And at the same time, you want to lead in a way that you're able to retain your high performance leaders, your high impact leaders. So the last thing any leader wants to do is train the competition. And if you're growing and developing people and you're not retaining any of those high impact people, then you're training your competition. So you want to train and develop people, grow and develop people, but you want to try and do your best to retain them. So what I mean, the leaders of one organization do not want to train their team in an effort to get better, only to have them leave and join the competition. But a low impact leader will use this as an excuse not to train their team. You don't want to be that type of leader. They are often heard saying, and you've heard me say this before, but I want to make sure you get it. They'll say something like this: "What happens if we train them and they leave?" And this is a valid concern, but a much more concern is what happens if we don't train them and they stay? A high impact leader doesn't question the need to train the team. They just do it. They're more concerned with why do they want to leave? That's the real question that needs to be answered. Whether we're training the people or whether we're not training the people, high impact leaders want to answer that question. Then they want to address it. High impact leaders know that training is the easy part. Raising the character level of the organization as a whole, that's the hard part. You see, training is a calendar issue. You just schedule it and you do it. That's easy. Transforming is a culture issue. That's not a calendar issue. That's a buy-in issue. Leaders had to lead themselves well, then they had to motivate and influence their team members to buy into their mission and their vision. But most importantly, high impact leaders have to get the people to buy into transforming themselves. No one else can do it. Each individual has to do it themselves. That's the challenge. But the organizational character, which is really simply the culture, because the culture is nothing more than the collective character of everyone working in the organization. But anyway, the organizational character must be raised in order to create an environment that will foster the growth and retention of the best and the brightest. It's your team. It's everybody. It's everybody growing and everybody striving to become more and to become better. It's going to take a team to retain your top talent. Not one person. It's going to take the team. John Maxwell had this to say. He says, culture eats vision for lunch. Culture is more important than mission, vision, or strategy. And again, culture, the way I define culture, is nothing more than the collective character of everyone in the organization. That's what culture is. It's the character of the people added together, collectively. That's what culture is. So I want to talk with you about 5 steps to create a character-based culture. The first step is change your behavior. If you're the top level positional leader in an organization, everything is dependent upon your ability to lead yourself well. It starts with you. If you're not at the top, guess what? It still starts with you. And if you're at the bottom, guess what? It still starts with you. Transformation begins with you. So you're looking for an example. So are the people that are following you. Your walk has to match your talk. If leadership is being taught, it must be caught. So again, you as an individual within an organization, you're looking for someone to model a high degree of character. And I'm going to say it again. So are the people that are following you. Whatever level you're at, your talk has to match your walk, or you're being a bad example. The second step to create a character-based culture, you got to select the right people. Everyone's watching. Everyone's watching. You start a cultural transformation, you start talking about culture transformation, you just put a magnifying glass on your leadership. You just put a magnifying glass on who's being moved into which position, who's being selected, who's being promoted, who's being given opportunities. You got to understand you're under a magnifying glass when you start cultural transformation. And I go back to that last statement. Your walk has to match your talk. You start talking about cultural transformation and you keep promoting the same old, making political moves, the good old boys club, that's who's getting promoted, just like I always have. If that's what's still happening, ain't nothing changing. You're going to lose everybody. because everyone's watching. So no matter how many closed door meetings you have about who is on board and who is not, you cannot keep people decisions a secret. Don't miss that one. No matter what level leader you are, you cannot keep people decisions a secret. No matter how many closed door meetings you have, when you make a people decision, everybody's watching. People going to see it. They're going to talk about it. And they're going to compare it to what's being said in the organization. And while they're comparing it to what's being said in the organization, you either going to build credibility or lose credibility. So changing your behavior may mean making the hard decisions. If a team member is not on board, you must change them, meaning help them get on board, or you must change them, meaning they don't get to ride the train. If they want to change, everybody's welcome to ride the train. If they want to be a part of getting better, doesn't mean they have to be perfect, but if they want to be a part of trying to get better, trying to transform the culture, everybody's welcome. If that's their goal. If they don't want to change, then they're going to have to be changed. If they don't want to change, they're choosing to become irrelevant. They're choosing to quit but stay. You got to carry out their decision. If they want to quit but stay, you got to help them. You got to facilitate their decision. If they want to quit, help them quit. They either support you in the mission or they are not a part of the mission. Don't miss that one. The people on your team, they either support you in the mission or they are not a part of the mission. But you got to make sure you give them a chance. You start cultural transformation. If you've never taught personal growth and leadership development, if you've never taught it or no one's ever taught it in your organization, people don't know what they don't know. So when they're saying they don't want to be a part of it, they don't even know what they don't want to be a part of. They basically saying they don't like change. That's just about everybody in the world. So make sure they get a good solid introduction by somebody who's modeling it. That's the key. Your leaders have to be modeling it. If you go in and you teach people leadership development, personal growth, and the leaders are not modeling what's being taught, well, the people who don't want to buy in, when they look at the leaders and the leaders are not bought in, it don't matter what they hear. What they see is what matters. So remember, everybody's watching. Leaders, you've got to align your behaviors with whatever it is you're wanting other people to align their behaviors with. You've got to model it. So the third step to create a character-based culture. This last one was select the right people. Number 3 is position the people. It's not only important to have the right people on the team, but you must ensure that they are in the right place. You must get to know them, all of them, ask them questions, find out their passion, help them find their purpose. If you want them in the organization to thrive, put them where they belong. Not where you need and want them to be. Put them where they belong. Allow them to stretch toward their potential. You start cultural transformation, there may be some people who rise up. The cream of the crop may come to the top and they're not who you expected them to be. It doesn't matter who they are. If they're on board, you got to put them in the right place where they can make an impact, where they can help with cultural transformation, unleash their potential. So the fourth step in creating a character-based culture, you got to train all of the people. What does that mean? Let me say it again. Train all of the people. Not some of the people. All of the people. From the highest level positional leader to the lowest level entry-level team member. And no one is exempt. We're talking about character development. You can't transform a culture without growing and developing the character of everyone in the organization at some level. People may grow at different amounts and different speeds, but everyone needs to be growing. The great thing about leadership principles are they apply to everyone at every level. Everyone at every level can learn side by side. There's no need to separate people based on position or lack of position. You don't need to do silo training. Keep the silos that are already in place. You need to break down the walls of these silos and mix teams up. Put people in room together that usually are not working together, don't even know each other. Let them grow together. Let them meet each other. You got to build a team. It's about character, not position. If you want them to take responsibility, train them all as leaders to be responsible. That's common sense, but it's not always common practice. So the fifth step to create a character-based culture, create a community. The best and strongest teams do life together. Mixed level leadership training sessions are a great way to develop relationships horizontally and vertically within an organization. Encourage and facilitate events that include family members. Some of our clients, when we're there doing training, they allow their team members to bring in their spouses or their teenage children. That's pretty powerful. Volunteer in the community as a team. Do something for the community. Do leadership development training for the community. How about that? As you're learning and growing your team, let some of your stars shine. Do something with the community and invite community leaders in and let someone on your team do some leadership development training. Help them. It's not just about you and your team. Help them. Help those around you. But find ways to do life together. You'll be amazed what happens when people begin to treat people like people instead of objects. And I remember in some of my jobs, some of the companies I worked in, they didn't want people having relationships with each other. Today, I think that's the stupidest thing a leader ever could say. Don't have relationships with each other. Especially, they say outside of work. You shouldn't have a relationship with someone outside of work. Well, I'm going to tell you what, if you got a relationship with them at work and you see them outside of work, you don't have a relationship, then you ain't got a relationship with them at work either. And leadership, high impact leadership, is about building relationships. So it doesn't matter where you build a relationship, you need a relationship. But don't let your moral authority leaders get away. Those are your high character people. The best leaders in your organization are those with the most positive influence, those with moral authority. Anyone can lead with a position, but only high impact leaders can lead with moral authority. They can lead without a position. They don't need a position. Many of your high impact leaders don't have a position of authority. Moral authority leaders may or may not have a position of authority. However, a lot of people choose to follow them because of who they are and what they represent. They have a high degree of character, and everyone knows it. Having a high level of character development allows you to see what others can't. It allows you to see what's coming before others see it coming. A high level of character allows you to see farther than others can see. Anyone with high level character can quickly discern what's really going on while it's going on. They know if they are being motivated or manipulated. And people with a low level of character are good at manipulating, not motivating. But those with a high level of character do not like to be manipulated and will choose to remove themselves from a manipulative environment. The higher level the character, the lower level the tolerance for manipulation. So if you got high character people in your organization, especially if they're on the front lines, you start growing and developing people, you start cultural transformation. Those ones on the front lines, most often they're going to be the hungriest because they're tired of what's happening above them. And if you allow the manipulation to keep happening above them, some of those that are on the front lines who really could help you transform the organization, they're going to be tired of being manipulated and they're going to move on. You don't want them to move on. That's why you got to grow and develop your leaders. That's why you can't you can't play games with who's on the leadership team. They got to be the real deal. So as you grow your culture, you must be aware of the dynamics that will occur when you start developing the team. The most important thing is to do what you say and live what you say. If you don't, you're not ensuring a transformation. You are ensuring a migration. If you and the other positional level leaders don't walk the talk, you will lose those that can help you the most. The goal is not migration, it's transformation. But if you're just playing around with it, you're going to run off some really, really good people. Terry Smith had this to say. He said, moral leaders exercise power for good purposes. Essential to this is that they do not hoard power, they give it away. There is no leadership without power. However, a leader will frequently want to distribute rather than to maintain power. Leaders empower their followers. Again, those are the words of Terry Smith. So real quick, I want to tell you 6 keys to retain your moral authority leaders. Number 1, model high-level leadership. High-impact leadership is what I'm really talking about. No matter what level someone is currently in, when they get it, they get it. Someone at the lowest paying entry-level job may be the first to buy into a character-based leadership culture. They may begin reading, studying, learning, and applying what is being taught on their own. No matter the level, when someone starts diving in, they will begin to see clearly who is on board and who isn't. If you're in a positional leadership role, you must be modeling what's expected. You should be leading, not following. The second key to retain your moral authority leaders. This means how to retain people of high character. Identify potential leaders. If you are modeling by example, you'll be among the people. You'll be studying, learning, applying, and teaching, which will allow you to better identify others that are doing the same. Be intentional. Look for them. You may be surprised to discover that your best positional, formal authority leaders may not become moral authority leaders. Also, people who are not considered leaders today may become your best leaders tomorrow. It's no longer about position. It's all about influence based on moral authority. Who you are matters much more than where you sit. The third key, support all leaders. Once the moral authority leaders have been identified, give them all the training and development they want. They will be hungry for more. That's going to be one of your greatest challenges, is to feed the hungry. But if you're serious about cultural transformation, you got to feed the hungry. They are not just coasting along. They are on fire. Fan the flame. You'll be surprised how quickly and effectively these people will grow and influence others to do the same if you support them and empower them to lead, which means you're going to feed the hungry, then you're going to help and encourage them to feed the hungry. They're going to become your most valuable resources. You do not want to lose these people. They are the future in your organization or someone else's. Don't miss that. If they're hungry, they're going to feed themselves. You should be feeding them, but they're going to feed themselves. And they're going to climb in your organization, or they're going to climb in someone else's. But they're not going to wait long for you if you just hanging out. They're on a mission. The fourth key, recognize leaders. Spread the word. No matter what level they're at, be sure to promote their enthusiasm and desire to grow and develop themselves. Praise them in meetings, company newsletters, or other types of ways that you can recognize them for their buy-in. Loan them your influence by offering public recognition. Don't just do it once. Do it repeatedly and do it relentlessly. Don't worry about the politics in the organization, because when you start a cultural transformation, you're going to have all that old political stuff going on. You got to forget about all that, and you got to do what's right. What's right is recognizing your leaders. Shine the light on what you want people to see and what you want people to be. The fifth key, engage leaders. Those that are transforming their lives personally and professionally are the strongest on your team. They get it at the core level. They understand it's not about the organization, it's about them. And they just happen to be a part of the organization. Use these people as trainers, facilitators, let them lead book studies, get them licensed and certified in leadership development content that you want to teach and spread throughout the organization. Anything related to leadership and development training. Use them to do it. It doesn't matter about their position or their title. It's about their character. It's about their example. They're living it. The people who are transforming their lives personally, don't miss those people. Just because they're not climbing the ladder like crazy inside of the organization, if you see somebody transforming their lives personally, they're modeling what you expect in others to start applying. They're already doing it. The reason they're not growing and doing it within the organization is because there's some leader somewhere that's not giving them the opportunity yet. You give them the opportunity, they're going to make it happen for you. So engage these leaders. Personal leadership, personal development is a big shining light, a flag that saying, here I am, pick me. Ask them what they'd like to do. Most often they'll be nervous but eager. They have transformed and want to help others transform. They're ready. Unleash them and support them. The sixth key is to reward your leaders. Go beyond recognizing those that are bought into the leadership culture. Don't just recognize them, reward them. Not just privately, but also publicly. Make a big deal out of it. Sure, they'll benefit and deserve the reward. However, the benefit to the organization or team is the greatest. Combine your influence with theirs to bring visibility to those that are modeling it for others. So in conclusion, if you're going to go through the tremendous difficulty of growing and developing your team, do yourself a favor and retain them once they respond and embrace your efforts. I often tell my clients, it's my job to grow those on your team. It's your job to keep them on your team. They listen, smile, and nod their head, but do they really get it? Well, it depends on how much they have developed and grown themselves. Often those near the bottom grow the fastest. They're hungry. They want to be more, do more, and have more. On the other hand, far too often those near the top are more comfortable, have had success, and may be comfortable riding along until retirement. Those will do the most damage because they don't want things to change. They want it to stay the same. They will be threatened by the change I'm talking about in this podcast. They're going to be threatened by cultural transformation, by the new leaders. They will not want to become uncomfortable learning and leading differently than they have in the past. If you want to have an effective character-based cultural transformation, do the critical work of assembling, growing, and developing those that are in formal leadership positions. Those are going to make you or break you. And if you're the highest level leader in your organization, either way, you're responsible. And I'll tell you right now, the four greatest obstacles to cultural transformation are the top leader, and this is in order: the top leader, upper management, middle management, and frontline supervision. That's your four greatest obstacles to cultural transformation. It's not the folks on the front line. They're waiting for it to happen. They're hoping it'll happen. It's the top leader, upper management, middle management, frontline supervision. That's your greatest obstacle. John Maxwell had this to say. He says, insecure leaders never develop people. They replace them. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.